Hi, Jeff here, doing another video on the AI ethics topic. And I suggest you really watch the one I did on replacing people to start with before watching this one, because this one's going to go into a little bit more kind of deep dive into the issues of replacing people, or let's say the tasks that people do. And the one I want to focus on here is on the concept of intellectual property. And this has come up in some. There have been a number of posts on LinkedIn, mainly, probably on Facebook too, but I see it more on LinkedIn about using AI to generate artwork, and 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 you usually can think about using it to also create music. Okay, now you don't hear much about it music, but you do see a lot of music creation software. Okay, so this has existed for a long time, or a number of years. There's software to kind of automate things and to create scores from, and we could, creating scores from the music. You play it and then it generates it. But then you can imagine that you could automatically do it. And so there was this artwork when that came up, and and that generated a discussion about using AI to create art, that this could lead into intellectual property things, because art, I mean, when you look at, I'm a trainer of intellectual property, right? Kind of protection in my company. And so one of the things, I mean, intellectual property is about any form of creation, artwork and stuff. It's in kind of the definition. I don't know the definition by heart, okay? I read it off a PowerPoint when I say it, with a little more emphasis on some of the things that are more interesting to my audience, right? But, and it talks about basically, uh, yeah, the creation of new work, artwork or whatever. And artwork is actually one of the things that's mentioned. And I worked in the software industry, right? So, but I'm a musician too, so I can really understand how this applies. And so that artwork thing created a whole discussion about. There was a blog or a post about, would this lead to problems in the future of not knowing who created it? Was it a person? Because in the whole thing of intellectual property, it's like there's a moral person. I mean, it's an entity, right? It's usually a company or a person, right? That has claims rights to that intellectual property of that created form or object, right? And then who owns that, right? And now the whole thing is, well, what if a computer generated it, right? Who owns it? It's not a person anymore. This algorithm created it, right? And and then what happens if you're using this to create all forms, kinds of things, and then you're using it to create kind of a first level, and then you use it to create a generate set level, and you're using iterative processing to actually create what you used to be able to do in the past and claim as your intellectual property. I think this is a really interesting topic, because there are huge. When I give talks on this, you can look at this. You can look at the overall software industry and look back to where all the court cases were, litigations, and they all kind of this peak started in the 1980s, early on. And I always mention to people when I'm giving this class to talk about this, why that happened. Then you can see this ongoing curve. It grows, grows, grows up to today. But the key point I said, what happened in the early 1980s, folks, that probably sparked this beginning of all these court cases? And usually no one is able to answer that question. I said, well, there's that $11 million court case with McDonald's and the lady spilling the coffee in her lap in the car, right? And now you have to, afterwards you can't say hot coffee. It's just scalding coffee, and you're going to burn between your legs. So, and I don't know if there's a direct relationship between the two, but you can see from that point on, there was a lot. And that began, and especially in the United States, court cases, just like you watch Emergency Room, right? And you see the things out there, people out in on the parking lot looking for people that want to have that want to do it. And you drive along the highway in the States. I'm amazed every time I go back and driving along and you see these billboards with, need a lawyer, need a lawyer. And so it's really a big thing. And I think that one of the things that we're going to be looking forward here with AI has a lot of great potential, right? It has a lot of great potential in creating a lot of things. But the risk, and I'll talk about the concerns and the risk here. This is what these series about. I think that there will be a new generation of court cases. And I think, or at least I'll say litigations, those could lead to going to court, right? Or maybe not. And involve a lot of people. And I got a background in I've had my share of being involved in patent war expert, looking at things and investigating, and not just that, actually recovering patents and with lawyers and and in a few kind of court cases that were involved, that happen in some industries. I've been involved in helping defend, kind of investigate it and make a report or do things. And I've been watching this being involved in this for a couple of decades doing that. And I think what I'm seeing now with AI and knowing, having worked on this topic for a long time too, for at least a few decades, I think that this is going to generate some new problems along those lines. And I think that's going to get people involved, like myself, to have to kind of investigate that and help the legal counsel figure out what the decision is, right? And I think there'll be lots of opportunity there. Maybe it's called job security, right? But I'm kind of laughing, but kind of not. It's kind of sad. It's going to, and this is always new things that will disrupt will cause, things to be, looked at. But I think we need to be careful. I think that we need to be careful potentially what the along the intellectual property IP lines. I think we need to kind of really carefully look at that, because in the end, if we don't know who owns it, then that's going to be very ambiguous, and this helps lawyers to work with the ambiguous contexts and how to interpret that, right? So, and if it's not clear cut, then it just opens up a lot of opportunities for legal action and for decisions along that and interpretations of that. So that's all it's about. Law is about interpreting, right? How a certain law may be said, and then after you interpret it in a certain way or not, right? So I think this is going to be interesting. I'm not saying it's going to go that way. I think it could. In fact, I think it will. Just kind of seeing the trends and seeing how what it's doing, and having seen the past. And I think that there will be. I think that it will open up this whole kind of Pandora's box, and we'll see how it goes, right? So that's my thoughts on I like the intellectual property. I got a couple more videos coming here on the whole thing of AI ethics and along those lines.